everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I want to talk about three players possibly joining the Minnesota Vikings heading into this upcoming year, that being Linval Joseph, Treylon Burks, and Dalton Risner. We'll be breaking down those three players on today's show. But first off, if you guys want the Vikings to make one more move, just one more move, sign one more player, whoever that may be, just drop a like on today's video. Trying to send a message to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah that, maybe we can make a move that helps us get better on the margins. And if you guys want them to make one more move, just drop a like on today's show. But we're going to start off today's show talking about Linval Joseph, as some rumors are circulating that he could be looking to get back in the NFL this season and possibly with the Minnesota Vikings. So Linval Joseph, as we know, one of the best defensive tackles in Vikings history. He did play last season with the Buffalo Bills, wasn't too productive, was kind of in and out of the lineup, never really cemented himself as a true rotational piece with Buffalo, but doesn't make sense for the Vikings to bring in another defensive tackle like himself. So I like what the Vikings have done on defense. I've liked all the moves that Minnesota has made this offseason. Love bringing in Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, even a kind of minor signing, and a guy like Shaq Griffin. I love that move as well. But I still think there is a dire need at that defensive tackle spot. And I think Linval Joseph, could be an easy name to kind of plug in there. And, this wouldn't be the same Linval that you're bringing in that he was back with the Vikings during the Mike Zimmer days. He would be more of a rotational guy, maybe play first down, second down, probably not be on the field for third downs, and just be that run stopper. And I've made this comparison countless times. How the offensive line is for running backs is similar to how the defensive line is for linebackers. And I think just having those big bodies in the middle of your defensive line next to Harrison Phillips, who is a solid player, I think it would just make life a whole lot easier on Blake Cashman and Ivan Pace. And I think Linval, you could probably bring him in for a 1 year, $3 million, not even maybe $2 million deal, and just have another rotational guy at that spot. Because, besides Harrison Phillips, the Vikings don't have much to work with at that defensive line. And, the moves they made at the edge rusher department by drafting Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, it was fantastic. I've loved what the Vikings have done defensively, but they still haven't really addressed defensive line. And if you want a cheaper option who's familiar with Minnesota, still has a house there, who I think would be motivated to play with the Minnesota Vikings, keep your eyes out on Linval Joseph. I would bring him in for a workout, see where he's at, and if he's physically, able to play next season and still be productive, why not bring back Linval? Maybe you can wear number 98 and we can start seeing the belly rubs back again at US Bank Stadium. He's one of my favorite Vikings of all time, and I think it would just be good vibes for the locker room if you would to bring back Linval. But again, he's not the same guy as he once was. Do want to make that clear. But it's just a rotational guy, just somebody you can kind of, maybe if it's knock on wood, Harrison Phillips goes out for a game, maybe he can go all in for one game, kind of empty the tank, and then, obviously go back to being a rotational guy, for the rest of the season. But I think Linval would be a good choice, obviously super skilled, and I would definitely, bring him in for a workout and see what he does there. But let's talk about Treylon Burks. If you guys don't know, this is the Tennessee Titans wide receiver, former first-round pick actually 2 years ago. So the talent's there. His pro comp coming out of college was A.J. Brown. And, rumors are circulating that Tennessee could be looking to trade him after they did sign just Tyler Boyd in free agency, signed Calvin Ridley. They have a ton of receivers they like, and it kind of looks like Treylon Burks is kind of getting his way out of the lineup. He's not going to be able to crack that rotation. So maybe Tennessee could be looking to deal him to a team this season. And, the Vikings wide receiver 3 talk has been, one of the more talked about subjects amongst Vikings fans. And, I've been talking about it a lot because obviously I love talking wide receivers. And however, I just don't think, and I'll stay in this camp, that I don't think wide receiver 3 is necessarily that big of a need. I think you have 3 great options. I like Brandon Powell. I like Jalen Naylor. I also really like Trent Sherfield, who we brought in from the Dolphins this past season, who's a tremendous run-blocking wide receiver. And, could the Vikings trade, a 6th-round pick or maybe, a 2026 5th or whatever it may be for Treylon Burks and take a chance on him? Yes, but it's almost like it's almost like when you're playing with a really stacked basketball team and there's only one basketball. Like, there's only one football for this Vikings offense, and you would have so many mouths to feed. I mean, think about it. Like, if you would bring in Treylon Burks after bringing in Robert Tonyan, you would have Aaron Jones, Treylon Burks, Addison, Jefferson, Hockenson, Oliver. Like, you would have so many players that just need the football to be successful. And, you know, I would rather have them roll out a guy like Brandon Powell, who also, I think people are forgetting, like, he is very familiar with this Kevin O'Connell offense. Obviously, you know, ran it when he was with the Rams and Sean McVay. Like, I think he's just a really solid choice at wide receiver 3. And, you know, you guys know I'm a big fan of Jalen Naylor, and I think he's going to have a big-time chance to be effective this season if he does get the reps. Then the Vikings want to get smash-mouth football. They can insert a guy like Trent Sherfield. So I would be out on trading for Treylon Burks. You know, big-time talent, hasn't really lived up to it in the NFL. I don't know if that's a lot because of the Titans not being that successful in the passing department over the past couple of years. But you guys let me know. Would you trade for Treylon Burks? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass down in the comments section. But overall, I'm saying I'm passing on Treylon Burks. All right, let's close up today's show talking about another Minnesota Viking possibly returning, and that is Dalton Risner. So the Dalton Risner saga, I mean, this dates back from last season. Like, if you guys remember, he wasn't signed until I believe it was week 5 for the Vikes, and then obviously, you know, they signed him, and it was great. And, you know, he came and hit the scene hard. I thought he was fantastic with the Vikings, but, you know, he's still not signed, and we've heard him talk about on Twitter how he feels like the offers he's been getting has been, you know, disrespectful. And I'm sure he's looking at these other offensive guard contracts thinking, like, I should be getting paid top dollar just like that and at least be, you know, getting at least $5-7 million a year. But I think Risner, I think there is a clear want for him to play in Minnesota. And I'm sure the Vikings are saying, like, hey, man, yeah, we'll bring you back, but it's got to be on our price point. It's got to be at that $3-4 million. And I don't think Risner wants to sign for that. I think he's probably looking at like a 2-year, $10 million deal is probably what he wants. And I don't know if the Vikings are necessarily willing to offer that to Risner, but, you know, we're going to have to wait and see. And, you know, right now the Vikings do have Blake Brandel starting at the left guard spot, which is definitely a concern. And, you know, whether it's Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, like, interior pressure, as we know, watching Kirk Cousins the past couple of seasons, like, it can definitely affect the quarterback. And especially if you're a young quarterback or you're kind of an inexperienced quarterback like Sam Darnold, like, you know, having just a solid interior offensive line just definitely helps. And I think Dalton Risner offers that for the Minnesota Vikings. So the latest around him is just no real updates. I really hope the Vikings are able to bring him back, because then you're looking at this offensive line group of Darrisaw, Risner, Bradbury, Ed Ingram, the roller coaster he is, and then Brian O'Neill. Hopefully he has a bounce back year. Like, then you're looking at a pretty solid group. But I do definitely think the Vikings interior of the offensive line, they have been pushing this off for a while. You know, they're just kind of banking on Garrett Bradbury and banking on Ed Ingram without really making too many moves. And it's a little concerning because, you know, the Vikings are going to play a lot of good defensive lines this season. And they're going to know where to attack this group is up the middle, in the interior. I mean, we saw the game plan Zimmer had when we took on the Saints a couple years ago in the playoffs, when he put in Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin on the interior of the defensive line, had then generate pressure from that spot instead of them going out against the outsides against the Saints' really good tackles they had that season. They brought them inside and had them play there. So, you know, I think Dalton Risner, I think this is a must-sign for the Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion. I just don't really see a reason not to, unless it is a contract dispute and he wants $10 million a year, whatever ridiculous number. But, yeah, I would bring in Dalton Risner, but kind of want to chop it up here. Pretty busy day at the Chat Sports offices, so I had to do a little L3 or at-home style video. So, appreciate you guys are watching. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this beautiful Sunday. And thank you guys so much for the support on the channel as of late. See you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.